coming out today, and as you know, we're here with a really clear message for the government, and the message is simply that we do not want and we do not need nuclear power. No nuclear power in the future. And you know, the more you look at the arguments on our side of the story, the more clear it is that the government is being driven, you know, entirely by ideology and not at all by any kind of evidence. And the hypocrisy that is at the heart of this government's energy policy is just immense, really. You know, they say that they care about people's fuel bills. Well, if that's the case, why are they locking consumers into higher electricity prices for 35 years? You know, they say that they care about the environment, so why are they promoting an energy source that is dangerous, that is unsafe, that contaminates the local area, and which carries huge dangers into the future with the nuclear waste that we still don't know how to store safely? You know, they say that they care about, you know, the government finances and so on, and yet, and they said, of course, that nuclear was going to be with no public subsidy. I mean, that is just a joke. They must take us for fools. You know, I have had ministers come to the select committees on which I sit, and I've watched them squirm and dip and dive as they try to pretend that a subsidy that's given to more than one energy source isn't a subsidy. Do you know what? It is still a whacking, great, big subsidy going to nuclear power. And it's one that you can see here in front of us, the 17 billion. That's just one part of it. That doesn't even include the amount of money that we're going to be there if there are accidents, God forbid. You know, the liability costs, that doesn't include that. The costs of properly decommissioning nuclear waste, that isn't in there either. So basically what we're doing is saddling our kids and their kids with a massive, costly bill for no reason. And that's the most tragic thing, to be honest, because it isn't as if we need this technology at all. It isn't as if there weren't other, safer, better, greener, cleaner, better alternatives. We know. It just seems so almost beyond irony that in the same week that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is warning us that climate change is happening faster, that its consequences will be grimmer than we even thought, in that same week, what does the Prime Minister of our so-called greenest government ever do? He says that we're going to completely stop onshore wind power. Now, onshore wind power is going to be a fraction of the cost of nuclear. It is going to create far more jobs. It doesn't have the safety concerns of nuclear, and it also has broad public support. So, you know, when we've got technologies like renewables, when we've got the potential for a massive investment in energy efficiency, that would create hundreds of thousands of good quality jobs. That would mean that our fuel bills were lower. That would mean that our carbon emissions were lower. And yet the government turns its back on those, you know, much better sources of energy and traps us really into what is an ideologically driven, you know, love affair with nuclear. And I just think our message today is we hope very much that the European Commission will share our understanding of the inappropriate use of state aid. And I think they've got a lot of evidence in front of them that I know you've been involved in as well, in terms of putting that evidence to say that this is a massive public subsidy, a massive misuse of state aid. But you know what? Even if that decision goes against us, I know and you know that the battle doesn't end there. The battle is not going to end. We are going to keep up this battle because it is our children's futures that's at stake, and it's the jobs of our own kids and people to come that's at stake. And basically there are much more sensible ways of generating our energy. And so I just want to thank you so much for being here, because I do think that this message is getting across. You know, more and more people are understanding actually that the arguments that the government advances in favour of nuclear are absolutely hollow, completely hollow. I mean, just to take one last one, you know, they say, well, the lights will go off in the next few years if we don't have new nuclear. Has no one pointed out to them that new nuclear wouldn't even come on board at the earliest until 2023? Has no one pointed out to them what's happened in Finland, whereas the same model of nuclear reactor there is already 9 years over time and 3 times the cost of the original proposal? You know, you don't have to be a nuclear scientist to look at the evidence that tells you that this is not going to fill the energy gap either. You know all of these arguments. We are together, I think, going out and telling those arguments to other people. More and more when they hear those arguments, they agree with us. And that's why, if I can just end by saying that I do think these European elections are so important, because they are an opportunity for us to be able to really put forward the alternative that's based on cleaner, greener, jobs-rich energy sources. And by having green MEPs in the European Parliament, we can really take that fight right to the heart of Europe. So thank you again for being here, and I look forward to being with you as we continue on this battle, which I feel ever more confident that we will win. Thank you.